Good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the CEO Chronicles. And today we have the smiling, bright, and extremely health conscious Miss Cheryl M. Health Muse. Okay, why does she call herself Health Muse? You have to hear it out from her. But let's talk about why is she here with us today. So on CEO Chronicles, we often have people talking about how have they scaled up their businesses to millions and billions and done wonders for themselves and so on. Today, Cheryl's story is something that'll touch your heart because she not only took her business from rags to riches, from down to up, but then she got bankrupt. And why did she get bankrupt? And how did she scale up again? That is the story that we need to hear today. So welcome to the podcast. Cheryl, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. I feel terrific and I'm delighted to be here.
Awesome. Always happy to have terrific people with us on the podcast. So let's get straight into the game, okay? Tell us, Cheryl, when was the time that you had actually started this business and what exactly were you doing?
The business that crashed me was my own solopreneur business. I finally got the courage to jump off the cliff and go out on my own, which I was thoroughly enjoying because it was all mine. I was running my business to my ethics, my creativity. Everything was mine, and I was having a fabulous time. I was designing and manufacturing jewelry in Asia and then selling it to all the big box jewelers in the United States, to Macy's and JCPenney and Amazon and Kohl's. And I was having the time of my life. And I had made great friends in Asia. I was spending a fair amount of time there, but then I would come back to Los Angeles, and most of my customers were maybe 3,000 miles away. So I would give myself a little break after an Asian trip, jump on a plane, and then head east, where I would literally walk the stores, figure out what their assortments did, and design products specifically for their customer. It was a great business. I had a fabulous staff. I was really having the time of my life. But my body started to yell at me because I wasn't paying attention to it. And so at first, it was just sort of, hey, Cheryl, pay attention. You're not taking care of your health. I would go home at night and eat as fast as I had been working all day long. And I was eating the standard American diet, which I have since discovered has almost zero nutrients in it. Yeah. And so I was always running. I wasn't exercising. I thought stress was a good thing that was making me accomplish more. Ends up, I had used up all my cortisol and was almost to Addison's disease. I had extreme chronic fatigue, but I just was pushing through. And when I woke up one morning and could not move and everything in my body hurt, the 2x4 had come down. I had no choice. My business was doing great, but I couldn't run it anymore because my body wouldn't function. I was lucky that I had a great team. I turned my business over to them and I started going to the doctor. And after 4 rounds of tests, my conventional doctor called me and said, guess what? There's nothing wrong with you. I said, that's ridiculous. I cannot function. And she said, well, we can't find anything wrong. And I said, then I'm going to go find it. So I dug in. And I was really lucky because I tripped into what's known as the functional medical community. The difference between a functional doctor and a conventional doctor is they look at the whole body. If something's wrong with your liver, it's impacting everything else. A conventional doctor just wants to deal with the liver. I had diabetes. I wasn't controlling my blood sugar. I wasn't controlling what I was putting into my body to nourish it. And I tripped into this group that was running 19 different symposiums at the time with multiple doctors. And I listened to every single one of them. And then I made notes. What were the common threads? The first thing that caught my attention is they all became functional because they got sick and couldn't help themselves. Okay, that got my attention. Second thing was that there was something called leaky gut. Okay, what was leaky gut? So I wrote that down. I was going to investigate that. Then they talked about toxic load. What was toxic load? I didn't ever hear that term before. Wrote it down. I was going to investigate it. And finally, we had GMO on the ballot in California where I lived. I had no clue what it was. And there was so much misinformation, it failed. So I decided I better find out what was this deal between conventional crops, organic, and GMO? I have to tell you that for the whole first 2 years, I think my mouth was open. I had no idea how many toxins there were in my life and how poor the food quality was of what I had been eating. So it took me 5 years. But in 5 years, I discovered what I really had was fibromyalgia, which is one of the autoimmune diseases that
Wow.
causes extreme pain in all your joints and muscles. And I had lost all the pain because I had eliminated dozens and dozens of toxins and completely changed all my lifestyle habits. And I still had my business. I was going in once or twice a week and telling my staff what a good job they were doing. But I started getting into conversations everywhere with women who would share with me they were in this exact same place I had been in 5 years earlier. They hurt, they were frustrated, they were lonely, their doctor had no clue what was wrong with them. And I was sharing, I had kept all my information stored in folders on my computer. And I was getting on the phone and sharing with them, giving them direction in terms of how they could turn their health around. And I finally decided at 67, I was going to sell my business, go back to school. I had a BA in English from Berkeley and become a health coach because I was really passionate to share what I had learned. So that's what I did. And then for 5 years now, I have been sharing everything I've learned. My mission is to change the way Americans eat. 82% of us here are metabolically unfit, which means we're right on the border of going into serious chronic illness. And I know what to do about that. And I actually can talk from real experience. So I've done over 300 guest podcasts. I had my own podcast for 2 years. I talked to people like me who got sick, owned it, and turned their health around. And then I went on deep dives. And I am out there because it takes 16 times for somebody to hear something to change. And I don't care if I'm first or 16th. I want people to hear this because I don't want anyone to go into the pit that I went into and have to climb their way back out. So that's kind of how I ended up here. And I'm having the time of my life. Even my significant relationship changed. I was with a man for 10 years who refused to change. He didn't want me to dictate that he wasn't going to eat all that crappy food anymore. And crappy is carbonated, artificial, refined, and processed. And so he had to go because I wasn't going to get well if he was still in my life. So I went online and looked for a man who wanted to go on a get well journey with me. And I
Oh,
met my
wow.
soulmate. He had just lost his wife of 43 years to
Oh,
cancer. He
oh.
lived, it was a national site. He lived 10 minutes away from me when he contacted me. And the first thing he said is, I think I'm just the person you're looking for. And if you give me an opportunity, I'm probably the nicest man you ever met. And he is. He does everything with me. He's a statistician. I'm the creative. He's the other left brain guy. He does all my back end stuff. And we have this wonderful marriage and partnership where we're both learning in different directions, and then we get together and we share. And we're both having a really good time. So we had 2 houses in Los Angeles. We sold one and bought a second home in Sedona, Arizona, which is one of the wonders of the world. We have magnificent red rocks here. And we've just made the decision we're going to move here permanently now because it's so beautiful here. So my life is happy, but I've learned things like when you eat right, you turn all your happy hormones on. Now, if you're a business person, you want all your happy hormones on because all of us want to do business with people that we want to be around. So when you eat right and you do all of the what I call my 20 pillars of health, you create happiness from the inside out. And that's how you project to the world. Stress does not help you get more done. It hinders you. So when you do stress exercises, which I now do twice a day faithfully, I do them every day at 10 and every day at 2, it sends blood to your brain, opens everything up and brings out all your creativity and your best thinking, critical thinking. So as a business person, the last thing you want to do is get so focused on building your kingdom that you're ignoring your body, because without your body, you don't have a kingdom to build.
So I think, you know what, Cheryl, you've touched on one very important thing. And this is me, including a lot of other people, that believe that stress is somehow good for us because it keeps us on our toes. You know, this whole thing, this whole adrenaline that you experience. Oh my God. You know what? I have meetings. I have one thing lined up after another. It's just, especially entrepreneurs love to feel busy. Okay, so they like to have a choco blocked calendar. I love having one. It gives me that kick that I need to start my day. I'm like, oh my God, I have something planned from day on to day on. And then the other thing is that there is nothing called a work life balance. Okay, which is also shared with us that, okay, you know what, listen, if you have to really go out there, get what you want, you can't be doing having a balanced life, switching off at a certain time, taking care of your health, doing workouts, going out for walks, and all that, and then even making similar, I mean, enough money or enough and more. So let's actually first talk about the whole idea or the perception about stress. Why do you think we've come to believe that stress is good for us?
Well, I don't know. Here, the harder you work, for somehow you get more kudos in the United States. So
Same here. I
I
think I
mean,
think that's everywhere.
yeah, and I think it is now everywhere. And unfortunately, the American Standard Diet is now everywhere too, and
Absolutely.
everybody's eating it, and it's not good for any of us. But stress, we seem to take all of our self-pleasure and esteem from
Yeah.
how much we have on our plate and how much we can do, and we can do more than anybody else. And guess what? You are doing yourself a huge disservice because you're slowing yourself down. And there's two kinds of stress. We all have stress. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it goes to chronic, or what I call toxic stress, because I focused on eliminating everything toxic in my life, when you go to toxic stress, it shuts down every organ in your body, including your brain. And if your brain isn't functioning properly, you can't possibly be as great as you want to be. So you have to take the time to slow down. I started off taking yoga classes and learning breathing exercises. And the one I use is Dr. Andrew Weil. He's on YouTube. You can do it with him. He was the first integrative doctor in the United States. So he's trained thousands of integrative doctors around the world. But his breathing exercise takes 4 minutes and takes the top off of your stress and resets what's called your reptile brain or your parasympathetic nervous system, so that you take the toxic stress and throw it out. And you still have everything there that is the positive stress that keeps you going, but all that toxic stress is gone so that you function as best as you can, as you were meant to function. And so you got to take the time to do that. And it's easy.
Yeah, I know it's easy, but then what the thing is, okay, you have to do the exercises and so on. I think everything, Cheryl, boils down to us taking our health seriously, which a lot of people are like, you know what, listen, I'd rather, like die in an expensive hospital, with all that rather than do this. So I'm just telling you, this is the Gen Z
Yeah.
perception. Okay.
I actually had someone said to me, I can sleep and rest when I'm dead. I said, no, you're going to die a lot sooner if you don't sleep. That was another thing. That's one of my pillars. You have to get 7 good, clear hours of sleep. There was a report that came out of Berkeley 2 years ago that last hour, that 7th hour, which is sometimes still elusive to me, is when your brain clears all the plaque out so that you don't get dementia. I don't know about you, but I'm 74 and I kind of want to keep my brain. So that that made getting enough sleep a priority,
Priority in
because
life.
if I didn't have a clear brain and I started to lose my cognizance, I didn't want to grow old that way. And you don't have to. There are things that you can do to keep your brain intact until you're in your 90s and 100. And sleep is one of them, just like getting the top off of your stress. Stress impacts every body system that you have negatively if you're not taking care of it. So you got to take the time. It doesn't take that. It's 4 minutes twice a day. And I reset my stress. And the blood, I can feel it go into my brain. And I can feel how much clearer and happier I am after I do the exercises. So
Oh,
it's important. And I have decided that health is two things. It's self-love and it's balance. And if you don't love yourself enough to take the time to put all the pillars of health into place, which means you cook your own food, you buy real food, you eat all the colors of the rainbow because every color has its own gifts. If you don't love yourself enough to do that and the other pillars of health, your body can't possibly be in balance. And our bodies are energy. So without getting our bodies into balance and getting all of our chakras to be humming at the right frequency and the food feeds the right frequency, you don't have a life.
yeah.
And we have a depression problem in the world right now. It
Yes.
is particularly bad here in the United States, but I looked up the World Health Association statistics, and depression is a
It's
big
everywhere.
issue everywhere.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you create your own happiness with your own health
True.
habits. So if you love yourself enough to make sure that those habits stay in place, I got to tell you, it really does. My first book was called It Feels Good to Feel Good. Once you start to feel good, you don't want to give that up.
Yeah.
I love getting up happy every day. I love getting out into the world and sharing what I know from my joy.
And
And
I think,
that's what I want for everybody.
yeah, I think, see, this is where, and I think in the previous episodes of CU Chronicles as well, we've discussed this. There's this whole idea of a successful life that we have been raised to believe in, okay? Where you have a lot of money, where you are owning big houses, where you are, busy, you're there, and so on. And then in that whole idea, self-love, happiness, etc., have are not involved or not included. Okay,
Or they've taken a second seat and they
they
shouldn't.
they always take a second seat. And whenever we have these conversations, even with a lot of people have with their families and so on, they're like, oh my god, you know what, look at this guy, he's doing this with his life, look at that guy, he's doing that with his life. This whole idea that I am earning enough, that I am able to afford a roof over my head, I have good healthy clean food on my plate, and I have enough time to take care of myself, is actually discouraged. And it's not, I mean, they're like, oh, it's really good to read about it, etc. It's not practical.
But it has to start with self-love, because if you don't love yourself, nobody
Yeah.
else, you're not showing anybody else how to love you. So all your business relationships improve when you start to practice self-love.
And I think
Because
number one thing entrepreneurs don't do is they do not love themselves. They love their business more. They give so much to it that they forget that they exist outside the business also.
but who would you rather be around? Somebody happy, who's
Yeah,
content, who's taking care of themselves, and who exudes self-love, or somebody who's miserable working all the time? That energy goes into your biosphere. Everybody picks it up. And
absolutely.
so when you start to take care of yourself, that's when the magic starts.
100.
That's when your business takes hold. That's when the magic is everywhere and you're spreading your kindness and your gratitude everywhere you go. And that's what builds your business and your world.
Right, right, right. Rightly said. Rightly said. So let's actually now maybe talk about when we're growing these businesses, and obviously understanding that, okay, this is my health, this is my work. What do you think is an ideal number of hours that a good balanced entrepreneur should be giving to his work and to his health?
I actually don't look at it that way. Number one, I have a great deal of passion for what I do,
Yeah,
but that does not mean that I don't make time for all of the 20 pillars of health, which includes getting outside into nature, which is super important because nature feeds our soul. And even in Dubai, I don't know if you have a lot of trees anywhere, but trees actually let off chemicals
we
that are
have a lot of
healthy
trees,
for our
surprisingly.
body. Good. There's something called NK chemicals that
Yeah,
can even cure cancer when you get out amongst trees and just sit quietly with them.
yeah, yeah.
There are gifts everywhere, but you have to take the time to be quiet, to get out into them, and then to allow them into your world. And by doing that, then when you are working, you still work with the same passion, but you actually have more energy and more happiness and joy to put into your business. So I don't look at it that today I'm going to only work 8 hours and then I'm going to do this. Although at night, that's time for my husband and I. We cook dinner together, we relax together. That's important. But I get up quite early because I really love what I'm doing. But that doesn't mean I don't take the time to do the other things that are important to keep my body functioning and in balance. Because when you lose your balance is when you lose your health.
I agree. 100%. 100%. So, before we close the podcast, we ended. What are your top 3 tips that you would like to give budding entrepreneurs, especially in their mid-20s, who are getting out there doing stuff? What would you say?
The number one most important thing you can do is own your own life. Don't let anybody tell you anything is impossible. Just the word is I'm possible. When you start to have health problems, I had somebody tell me I would never get out of bed. Guess what? I have more energy than I maybe have ever had in my life. Nothing is impossible. So number one, understand that, and you can create whatever world you want. You can turn your health around. You can create health in your body. You need to own it. And you need to know that it's yours to change and to put out to the world. So if you do those 2 things, then that goes to everything. You can do anything you want in business. You just have to decide what the steps are. And if you fail, even better, that'll help you learn and find a new way over that barrier so that you keep your eye on the goal and you keep going after it, because you're going to get it done and you're going to accomplish it with joy. And that's how you live your life. You know that anything is possible. So you set your day out with your goals and the steps you're going to take to make them, and you go and you just do it. Don't try. Try as an excuse that you can give yourself some slack when you don't do it. Don't try. Just decide you're going to go do it.
Yes. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for the lovely insights you've shared. It was such a nice conversation. More than anything, I'm so happy to have a happy person, someone who's, exuding literally what you said, exuding that energy, bringing that on. I think that's wonderful.
And I want to tell you one last thing. I'm 74 and I feel better than I did in my 50s.
Oh,
I
my
want that
goodness.
for everybody.
Wow. That's amazing. So guys, everyone who's listening to me, Cheryl is a health coach. Okay. She is happy to have sessions and contribute and tell people about how can you as entrepreneurs take care of yourself. Her details are going to be popped up in the description box. Feel free to reach her out on LinkedIn and get in touch, get yourselves healthy. Up until next week, when we have another dynamic CEO coming up, I'd say goodbye. And thank you so much, Cheryl, once again for being with us on this podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Happy to. Thank you. Take care. Bye.